What's up, guys? Our Wrestling Podcast back at you with another episode. This is Dave Vicious along with Just a Total Package, Craig the British Bulldog, and the Nature Boy Joe, bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. Today's topic, Mount Rushmore, wrestlers not winning a major world title. For audio fans, give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio, or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, and check out exclusive content on Daily Motion at Our Wrestling Podcast. And on social media, can you give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast. It's needless to say from our conversations earlier, fellas, this one gets a little muddy, but we're gonna have some fun with it, I think.
So I spent all the time thinking, like, we're not going to include the World Heavyweight Championship. We're not going to include the Universal title. Fuck those titles. Like, fuck them all.
Whoa.
Throw them against the wall and fuck them. Like, so that's why I was like, no, we're not going to do that. But then Joe talked sense into me, as he often does. Even though he's a Flair fan, I'll forgive that, and I'm a Hogan fan. We will find a middle ground. Joe said, you know what? Just count them. Like, because instead of trying to discount all these titles, like, just include. So, for example, Dolph Ziggler only won a version of the World Heavyweight Championship. It was called the World. He didn't win the WWE title. He won the World Heavyweight Championship. We're going to include Dolph Ziggler. Can't put him on our list. Sorry. Can't do it. However, we will get a little stingy. Joe, and I agreed with this with Joe. So the NWA Championship is a point of contention, right? So the NWA Championship went away in 1991. They fell out of agreement with WCW. Then it became the WCW World Heavyweight title. But then Bill Watts decided to try to make a deal with New Japan Pro Wrestling to keep their relationship strong. And they brought the NWA Heavyweight Championship back in 1991/2. And we had people like Barry Windham win it. And we had people like the Great Muta win it. And Joe said, I don't count that. Because in a way, like, they were just latching on to WCW at that point. And it really was... in a weird way, Joe, to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it, it was an early version of the WWE creating the World Heavyweight Championship or the Universal title. But WCW didn't know how to do it at that point. So we're not going to count that. And we're not going to count the early TNA champions, which were technically NWA Heavyweight champions. And I know people are going to be like, what? Cody Rhodes is a former NWA Heavyweight champion. There's a lot of people, Colt Cabana, Adam Pearce, are all former NWA Heavyweight champions. We're not going to count those. So you can put those on your list because Joe eloquently put it, they were independent championships at that time. Like, after the WCW and NWA like relationship severed in 91, they became independent championships. Like Shane Douglas, when he won the NWA title and threw it down and created the first ever ECW championship, we don't count that because it was an indie title. It really was. Like, it fell out of favor.
It was like, as far as I'm concerned, those titles don't have any connection to the original like NWA WCW legacy. They're not connected. So to me, it's like, like that title's like same as like saying a USWA champion or a WCCW champion, or they were small independent territories. They were not.
Yes.
Major titles.
So we can include those people or whatever, but if they've won a version of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship that was brought back by Eric Bischoff in 2003 and awarded to Triple H for no reason, that is a version of the Heavyweight Championship, so you cannot include those people. So if they won the Universal Heavyweight Championship, you cannot include those people. If they won the WWE title, you cannot include them either. So is that clear? Is everybody okay with that? Do we all agree?
Yes.
Okay, and we do not, Joe, we do not count the AWA?
I mean, what are you guys' thoughts? Like, I would say no. I mean, to me, the AWA, even though it was considered a big three, it was just territory.
Okay, so we do not count the AWA either. So, okay, I get it. So to be included on this list, you cannot have won the WWF Heavyweight Championship, the NWA Heavyweight Championship, the WCW Heavyweight Championship. If you have not won any of those major world titles, you can be put on the list. Also, if you've won the Universal or the WWE version of the World Heavyweight Championship, you cannot be put on this list as well. There's still a lot of material.
It doesn't change my list at all.
Okay, so that's fine. That's all. I should have asked that question leading in instead of me babbling.
No,
on
I mean it could change some of that.
It changes maybe, but like I'm not sure. But
all right, who wants to go first?
Not me.
I'll go first. I'll go first. Okay.
Boldly stepping in, Jess. Good job.
I'm going to take. Everyone's going to have this person on their list. I'm almost positive. Arn Anderson.
Yep.
Arn Anderson.
Yep.
Is one of the greatest wrestlers, in my opinion, to never win a version of the World Heavyweight Championship. And he's legitly following that. Even all the titles that we were just talking about disputing, Anderson has never won anyway. So it doesn't really matter. So I could put Arn Anderson on that. Arn Anderson, clean. He's wonderful. We all talk about probably one of the greatest TV champions of all time, multiple tag team champions, one of the greatest tag wrestlers of all time. Larry Zbyszko, Tully Blanchard, Bobby Eaton were all his tag team partners. Arn Anderson's one of the greatest. So he's my first spot. My second, oh god damn it! I'm gonna go a little bit more modern, and I'm gonna say Scott Hall. Yeah. Scott Hall, there's no reason why Scott Hall, as Razor Ramon, shouldn't have won a version of the WWF Heavyweight Championship in the shit years, which is like a lot of people say. And even honestly, I guess maybe you could not have depended on him in WCW, but the fact that he never won a WCW World Heavyweight title is weird to me as well. However,
think about who did win it though. Good gravy.
Yeah. David Arquette.
David Arquette. Yeah, David Arquette is all you have to say, and then we can move on.
It always comes to mind, and not his fault. We talked about that for a while last week.
David Flair.
Yeah, David. Well, I don't think, God no. So my second is going to be Scott Hall.
Good one.
One of the greatest, if not the greatest, Intercontinental Champion ever. He won the U.S. title. He won the WCW Television Championship. Him and Scott Hall won the WCW Tag titles, but he never won a version of the World Heavyweight Championship, even when he was in AWA. So you can't use that as a thing too. So Scott Hall is my number 2. Oh my god. My number 3 is Owen Hart. Again, no reason why he couldn't have beaten Bret in 94 when they had their feud. I understand why they didn't, but again, during the shit times of 94 and 95, Owen could have won the world title, even for a couple months, and then Bret beat him back. There's really no reason why Owen couldn't have done it. I look at the lower periods of WCW or WWF and realize, why wouldn't Scott Hall be a world champion? Why didn't Owen Hart be heavyweight champion? So that's my number 3. Owen Hart, and number 4, oh my god, this is just stupid. Why did you pick this title, Dave? I'm so sick of your shit. I'm gonna have to go with Roddy Piper.
Yeah, come on, man.
Yeah, come on, man. He was just around at the wrong time. He was super hot in the territories, especially in Portland, and he was a really big favorite in NWA, had great legendary feuds with Flair over the U.S. title and Valentine over the U.S. title. And when he came to WWF, he was a manager, and people don't remember that. When he first came in, he managed Orndorff and I think a couple other people, I don't remember who. And then he, started wrestling there, and he was the hottest heel. And him and Hogan had one of the biggest feuds in wrestling history for the World Heavyweight title. You're in the middle of Hulkamania, right? You're not going to pull the title off Hulk. And I think Orndorff falls in this too, and I didn't put Orndorff on. He was someone on my list. But I think him and Piper were neck and neck, they feuded with Hulk and drew major money. But Roddy Piper was over as fuck. He really was. And as a
even
heel,
in the past years, when he extended his career to where there's no reason why he couldn't get it with Savage or Hogan or DDP during WCW.
Right.
So he missed all those opportunities.
And he beat Hogan a bunch of times in non-title matches, by the way, and never won the actual WCW Heavyweight Championship. So I would say that's my 4. It's got to be Anderson, it's got to be Hall, Owen, and Piper. Those have to be my 4.
Nice.
I'll jump in because I'm going to give you. I'll just be quick about it. I'm going to give you Anderson. That's just a no-brainer. I feel like there's no way it's not on Joe's list either. Probably not Craig's. But Anderson is by far the best wrestler to never win a major world title, and it's clean. The one that I think is not so clean for me is, you guys might argue because I think he did win one title that you say is good enough. I don't think it's good enough. I think Jerry Lawler is in that mix. I think there's something to that. I know he's a one-time AWA champion, but I just don't see that as and the way he won it in the context of all these other cards and territories in the sense, it's not, he never won a major
AWA was dying at the time.
He is a 42-time USWA champion.
Yes, 48.
I think it's like 58. It's like, is it 48 or 58? I thought I saw
92, Joe. You're incorrect. 92.
92.
You know what though? So, but from our
58
wheelhouse,
times.
if we were going to allow AWA, because in us coming up, it was in those big three. All the wrestling magazines had the big three, and those were the big three federations. Even though now it doesn't even hold a candle AWA's tenure, and you don't consider it at all. But back then, and even back then, Lawler with Memphis and USWA, that was national. That was in the magazines.
Right.
I envision him as kind of being on par with a cheaper man's Flair.
He did. He
and
beat
Hogan
Kerry
at the
Von
time.
Erich. He did beat Kerry Von Erich for the AWA championship. Yeah.
So with
Yeah,
this is the first mention of like, what does it mean to be heavyweight champ? And did Lawler
And times from the past, Craig, that's a really good thing. Is like, you know, Joe is right. Like there was a time where the AWA, it's like, we're just like, you're doing that now? Like, you know what I mean? Like they got so bad in 89, 90, 91. AWA was just nothing.
That's kind of where I feel like Jerry, because as nostalgic as Jerry is and was, and what he, you know, what the King was able to do across the country, he never really did accomplish that. Like he's one of the best. Yeah, and some people talk about technique.
To Joe's point too, after like 85, 86, you know, like you could disqualify 84, but 85, 86, when WrestleMania was a thing and it was happening every year, to Joe's point, Vince did redefine what it meant to be a world champion. Like, even though it was just national at first, like Japanese didn't really like, you know, New Japan and all that stuff didn't really like coddle to the WWF World Heavyweight Champion. But Vince did change everything. It just took forever. It's why territories died. It took forever for them to realize what Vince was doing. Oh, he's dominating everything. Got it. Like people really didn't realize that until like 88, 89. And they were just like, yeah, he got us. And I'm like, well, he got you like fucking 4 years ago. You just didn't know it. And so to Joe's point, like everything else started to die out like after Vince really asserted his dominance. 85, 86, Hogan was on fire. WrestleMania was becoming an annual thing. And like it was national. Like it was what your kids wanted to watch. It's what they told their parents. We want to watch this. Like, so to Joe's point, I understand. I get it. I hate him for liking Flair. I hate him, but go on. I'm sorry, Dave. Go on.
My next one is Jake the Snake Roberts. I think that's one that
yeah, he was on my list. He was on my list.
Yeah, he's right there for everybody. He's a great in-ring performer, one of the best when it came to psychology, especially vignettes. Jake the Snake could cut a promo without ever raising his voice, and I think you never were more hooked and probably scared at the same time as a kid, going like, "Man, that guy looks."
I'm gonna tell you, my man, we are. That was Jake. That was all his promos. He was like, "Let me tell you something, Bundy."
He was diabolical, man. Just so incredibly just talented, and he was. I mean, he got to the point where like I'm trying to think about if he even. When it comes to WWF standards, I don't think he won a title at all. I don't even think he won IC. I don't think he won a tag title.
He did not.
He didn't win any of those things. So it's fantastic how much we love Jake the Snake in those days, and never to touch a title.
You know what I heard Jake the Snake say, which I never really considered it? He's like, belt? I didn't want the belt. I already had to lug around a snake. You had to carry that belt with you at that time. 24/7. And it makes a lot of sense. Like if you're already carrying around that snake the entire time, you don't want 20 pounds of gold. I was like, holy shit.
Right. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, and I think... And I got to go with Roddy at the last one too, Justin. I see other people that could be on the list that kind of teeter.
You said Piper?
Like AWA as well. Yeah, Piper's just...
Come on, two mountains, man.
Come on.
Too big.
50% of the guys think I should get it about.
I mean, when Hogan was getting movie deals, so was Roddy. Not to the extent of what Hogan was getting.
No, they live,
like he was big, man. Roddy was one of the biggest entertainers in the
I'll be able to kick ass and chew bubblegum, man. I'm all out of bubblegum. Write that down, man. Write that down.
That's money, baby. Yeah, so yeah, I think Roddy, when it comes to his fandom and ability to just have people just magnetories towards him, I think I can't believe he never won a major title, like a major world title. It's weird.
he was the hottest fucking heel, and then when you turned babyface, he was right behind Hogan. Like there, you know, we watched WrestleMania 3 and a lot of other places where Piper would walk out and the place would. My first ever live event I ever saw, my first house show, was Hogan and Piper against Sid and Flair, and Piper's pop was massive. Like, I mean, it was just almost as big as Hogan's, like probably just as big. Like, to be honest, like people loved Rowdy Piper, and this was 1992. Like, and they were both getting older, Hogan and Piper, and they retired and never went on to do anything in WCW ever after that. But like, it was crazy. It was like, it was like, so Piper was really up there, and then somebody who lived through like his pop and saw it like live at a house show, like it was pretty fucking big. Like Piper was over.
Watching Piper come out to a Piper pop and put his hands on his hips and look at the crowd.
Oh, look at this, man! I was so proud. Oh, what an event, man! So, all right, Dave, that was your 4.
Good. Okay. I'll start up. So, yeah, I think it's got to be number 1, Coco Beware. Number 2, Nikolai Volkov. Number 3.
These are all solid. I don't know why you're laughing.
What's the problem?
No, I think, and it got mentioned, but he wasn't on anybody's list. I think my first one I'll go to is Orndorff.
He was on my list too. Fuck. Yeah, it's such a good poll. God damn it.
He didn't win an AWA title in the highlights of it, Joe?
No.
Or can you?
No.
I don't think so.
He did not.
I don't think so.
I thought he did.
But
nope. I thought about him too. Right. Okay, that's awesome.
But at some point, like obviously he was running the gun with Hogan in the 80s, selling out.
Yeah.
By the way, Joe,
sold out a 60,000 seat house show
in 1986. So when they had their feud, they were the biggest world heavyweight, the biggest money drawing world heavyweight title program in the history of pro wrestling in 1986. Yeah. The house show they went to in Toronto, they put fucking 70,000 people in there in an outdoor venue.
Are you serious?
A house show. Yeah, it was called The Big Event. And they put 70,000 people in a building.
70,000 people
in Toronto for a house show. Yeah, and it was so big they ended up putting it on a video cassette, like I said, called The Big Event, and it's out there.
Was it really cold outside, and that's the only place that had heat, or what? Like what? What are we?
No, it was outdoors. It was an outdoor exhibition stadium. It was outdoors.
That's even crazier. It was outside.
Yeah, it was fucking crazy. And by the way, the crowd was almost 50-50. Like when Orndorff would get up there and do the pile driver symbol, the place fucking popped. Like people loved Orndorff. Like
it was a cage match, right?
Yeah.
It was a Hogan and Orndorff.
No, that was Saturday Night's Main Event, another historic event. Okay. They drew a high rating, and it was when they both dropped down at the same time. And then they couldn't figure out who won, and they restarted it, and then Hulk won. But like Orndorff and Hogan drew the most money in 1986 of any heavyweight program ever in the history of pro wrestling.
Yeah, I think in a different era, he finds it. He's champ at some point, you know,
somewhere, right? Yeah.
Okay, next on the list. Then my next one, I'm with Dave on Jake. Jake was, I mean, just everything, like every program he was part of was awesome. He was getting huge pops at that time. Everything that we just already talked about. The next one, and this obviously was a point of contention because of the defining what our criteria for this was. But my third one is Barry Windham.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I didn't include him in mine because of the fact that I counted him as an NWA champion. But I understand like what you're saying.
And I guess for me, because I was a huge Windham fan,
Wyndham's
and when
awesome.
they gave him, and I looked at it as like, and I thought that he should have won the title. I think that there's no reason why because you know, like then, especially at that time period, the NWA, like Flair dropped the title to Ronnie Garvin,
and Kerry Von Erich,
you know, like,
just because
and Kerry Von Erich for no apparent reason. Where like to me that would have been a very awesome feud. Like Windham leaves the Forcemen, I'm bigger than you, and they have this battle about, you know, it's basically what they would try to do with Sting later, but they could have easily done it with Windham before. And I think it would have been a hot feud. I think he would have been an awesome champion and have Flair, you know, like take it back for a little bit.
Sorry to interrupt, Joe, but what heavyweight title did Windham win, and why isn't it
NWA
counted? So, it was
they-
NWA when the WCW was happening.
Yes.
So
well, yes.
So yeah. So like the original NWA title that Harley Race had, that Flair had,
It was Crockett.
Eventually, it was Crockett. That title became the WCW title. So when they created like in '94 or whatever, '95, when they created an NWA title,
Actually, it wasn't even Crockett. It was the governing body. It was the biggest world title because it had everybody on the board. Crockett just ended up becoming the biggest territory for the NWA. And then when he bought everybody else out, Flair, of course, gravitated towards there. The NWA title was just the biggest title in wrestling. Like before that, like it just was like
the original
Still
title.
happening
Yeah.
on the indies at that point, and he had it, and they're small. Okay.
So WCW
so-
brought it back in late '91. Bill Watts, when he took over, wanted to so maybe it was early '92. Yeah, it was early '92. Bill Watts wanted to take over WCW when he got the head booker job, and he wanted to keep the relationship strong with New Japan. So he said, "What if we go to the NWA board, whatever that looked like at the time, and we'll bring back the NWA Heavyweight Championship, and that will be a title that New Japan Pro Wrestling people and WCW guys go for." So they brought it back, and God, I'm so fucking mad at myself for not remembering the first one. But then Muta beat that person, and then Wyndham beat Muta, and then slowly after Wyndham beat Muta, Flair beat when he came back in '93. Flair beat Wyndham. And then right after that, they just said, you know what? We don't want anything to do with you anymore. Like we're going to be WCW World Title. So they changed it to the big gold belt. Rude won it, and then they changed it to the International Heavyweight Championship after that. So I know it's a long, convoluted story, but yeah, like that's why Joe doesn't. And I get what Joe's saying. It was not the same NWA.
There's no legacy to it. It's a made up belt that they did. In fact, because I was a Wyndham fan at the time, I was insulted that that's the title that they gave him, and it was like, really, you're gonna give him this fucking bullshit?
And to call him the World Heavyweight Champion on that. And by the way, as part of Flair's lineage, they count that as Flair's 10th World Heavyweight title.
I was going to ask that question. So
Well,
technically, Cena's already beat him then. Well, Cena has the other offhand titles too.
I mean, it's based on different criteria, but
Right.
Yeah.
and my last one, I'm gonna go with. And I had thought about him, like he kind of popped in as like I was looking at a bunch of different people, and he kind of popped in. I'm gonna put on Bam Bam Bigelow.
Nice.
Oh God, that's a good poll. Jesus.
You know.
Yeah, I like that.
I think like especially. I mean, like that late '80s, early '90s run. I'm gonna go Bam Bam. That late '80s, from '87 to whatever, like '93 that he was in WWE. Like he
right.
I get again.
He jobbed to Lawrence Taylor, and they didn't even give him a World Heavyweight title.
I know, right? I mean, that match where he pins Brett at King of the Ring, and then gets the refs the refs throw a Mahomes flag, roughing the passer, and they give it they turn it, give it to fucking Brett in the end. Brett is basically like the fucking Kansas City Chiefs at this point. So did like all the bitching that they do, and like all the whining and complaining.
Oh my.
But
right around the corner here. Here we go.
It's fucking motherfuckers. I'm gonna go with Bam Bam. I think Bam Bam was solid, and I think that again another time, another place. Like that guy is I think he's WWE champion. Like in the mid '90s, he if he had stuck around, and like he would have had feuds with Diesel. Probably beat Diesel.
God, please beat Diesel. Is that so? That was all four.
That was my four.
Oh, Craigathy?
Craig, boo.
I'll get the two that have been mentioned, not out of the way, because they're obviously legends. Arn, of course, and I think, was Arn on all four, or at least three of them?
No, Joe didn't include him, which is surprising, but I get it.
Good job, Joe.
Piece of garbage. Sorry.
Which is true, because then we had that little moment when we were talking about if you didn't wrestle for
if you didn't contend for it, that's a good point too, Joe.
But he did. He contended with Flair for a moment.
He did have a moment with Flair towards the end, yeah.
And he did in the period that we don't recognize from Wyndham. He faced Wyndham for the NWA Heavyweight title and lost to Wyndham.
There we go. Owen Hart's second. I think if Owen had not passed away,
he's right
who
there
knew
with
what's
me,
stealing that guy, and there's no reason he couldn't have stopped his brother, and if in the Attitude Era or what have you.
Can you
around-
imagine his character and his funny wits in wrestling today, or even 10 years ago, 20 years ago? What he would have been able to do? He would have been on top.
No, if he would have won the Royal
Oh, yeah.
Rumble this year, people would have been pissed. But go on. 'Cause people don't like anything.
Deserve it.
Yeah, you suck.
Third, this guy right here, Bulldog. I think he had a couple of opportunities.
Yeah.
I was so shocked. I'm legitly serious. When he faced Vader in '93, there's no
he
good
came
goddamn
in, that
reason
splash.
that he couldn't have beat Vader. Like, there's no
Right.
reason. Vader could recover from it because Vader would lose to people and then just beat the shit out of him later and win it back. Like, that's the beautiful thing about Vader. Even though he was this unstoppable monster, he could lose. Like, you could stun him for a second, for 3 seconds, and pin his shoulders or whatever. Like, Sting did it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason why it couldn't have
Flair
happened.
did
Like,
it.
yeah, Bulldog could have
Yeah.
won it on a fucking European tour, which is why they hired Bulldog to begin with in WCW in '93,
Right.
but they fucking never pulled the trigger.
Had he survived, who knows what he could have done? There's no reason why he couldn't be at least on that level of like if Diesel got it, Bulldog could have got it. Like that's my Davy boy. And then the last one, no one mentioned him, but like Dustin Rhodes.
Yeah?
Goldust through the Natural, through even
Natural.
now, not even count on his last ride last couple of years, and he's still kicking ass at 50 or whatever he is. Like, who knows? Why not? Why wasn't he one of the big four?
Especially in
At the top
Goldust.
of
Like,
the
again,
Fed.
that
Right.
whole area of like 95, 96, when WWE was just trying to figure out they put a lot of stock in Goldust. And he won the IC title, but like, you know, they put a lot of stock. Why not put the world title on him and see what that looks like? You know, like that is crazy. That is really crazy.
There might have been plans for it, but a lot of this stuff, you know, people we talk about it online, why it doesn't happen. A lot of it's timing. But I think when Goldust was probably about ready to peak with that fun stuff, it's The Rock and Stone Cold just caught fire, man. I mean, it was just bad timing, and then he was gone. It
And
was
maybe just
wild.
a little young for the NWA mix, right?
Yeah.
He was
Yes,
at US heavyweight
100%.
stuff, but maybe just a couple years too earlier. He could-
Yeah, he debuted.
gimmick-
He
his
debuted in
gimmick was so
1990 or
raw.
91, like or whatever. Like
This point,
even with or without the restrictions, and I don't know what stopped some of you. Some of the people that I had on my list that I'll just call out. Rick Rude was never mentioned by anyone.
Yeah, like I had some honorable mention people. Rude was on my list.
Can I give one real quick? Can
yeah.
I give can I throw out John Tenta Earthquake? That was to me. He was in the heavyweight mix the whole time and never got one. If Yoko can get one, why couldn't Tenta get one?
I was actually surprised that like I had him on my list, but I wasn't sure it was Andre.
Andre
won the world
is a
title.
former.
Yeah.
Andre won the world heavyweight title.
Did he win?
February
Saturday
5th.
Main Event.
He
And
beat
he handed
Hogan.
it right to DiBiase.
Oh shit!
Yeah. He's legitly considered a WWF heavyweight champion. Like,
Ah!
I got you,
Interesting.
Joe. I got you.
No,
But-
baby oil, I won.
It's funny that you say that, Joe, because on my list was Ted DiBiase, who never won the
Yes.
world heavyweight title, even though he was given it.
Good one.
And to keep the kayfabe up, by
Ted
the way,
DiBiase-
until Jack Tunney
Ted
stripped it.
DiBiase is a great
DiBiase
great
defended the
pull.
title 3 times on house shows, by the way. And nobody.
Shut up. Did he really?
They kept the kayfabe up, and then Jack Tunney said DiBiase's not recognized as a world heavyweight championship. So yeah, Ted DiBiase.
That's
Hold a
crazy.
tournament.
Yeah,
I didn't think about Ted DiBiase.
We didn't
That was
talk about
great.
Rick Rude or Ted DiBiase, like which are big ones,
Yeah.
or Kurt Hennig.
Kurt Hennig.
Kurt Hennig has that AWA, which I know was kind of swimming, but yeah, they're all in there. I'm surprised Perfect didn't come in somewhere, but
I had like a newer guy on my list that you know I think for at least I don't recall him doing it. At least for like political reasons, I think he was on track to do it, and he would have been involved in it. But was like a guy like Mr. Kennedy.
I was just gonna fucking say
Yeah.
that. That's a great pull, man. That's a really good modern, like, yes.
Kennedy.
You know,
I
like just
almost-
for
It's a little early, but I almost put Sami Zayn. Like if he died
Yeah,
it's
tomorrow,
on the
I
list.
would still say
Yeah.
one of the
Oh,
best.
yeah.
to do
And
it.
KO
So-
won. Well,
I was
KO
gonna
won
say,
the
'cause
Universal.
KO wins.
KO
right,
won the
that's what I was
Universal
asking
heavyweight
question.
title, but he has never won the WWE. I'm pretty sure.
I
never
mean,
won- he's
he
never
has
won the
the. I mean, he had the winged eagle for a while though, right?
right. Hey, I'll give it to him.
At that point, you could do Ziggler too, right? If you're going to do that.
Yeah, Ziggler won the world heavyweight title, but not the WWE heavyweight championship. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
There you go.
But this worked out better than I thought. So I'm glad.
Real recent Gunther so far. Hey, come on. You know, he's
Yeah.
holding the TV title as just like
Well, I would say that like even though it's a TV title, that guy is actually, and I think that's why they put it on him. Is like he's actually giving it a little bit of weight. Like I think it's.
Yeah,
I think
agree
it
with
means
that.
more.
Yeah.
I think it means more with him than it has. I think it means more with him than even it did with Seth.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an argument to be made. So, good
Hot
stuff.
take.
Yeah, for audio fans, his hot take. Yeah, absolutely. Give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, and check out exclusive content on Daily Motion at Our Wrestling Podcast, and on social media. And give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or on
shut up.
Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast. No, yeah, or they can shut up. You guys can totally
shut
shut
up.
up.
Do that.
It's up to you.
Shut your mouth.
Jess will give you the option to shut your trap.
Yeah, shut the fuck up.
Jess, until you shut up. This is the O.W.P signing off. Have a good one.